Okay, we will come back into session from our recess. Thank you all. At this point in time, we will consider and take necessary action on the event application for, right? Or no, we have minutes.
Are we gonna do the consent agenda?
You tell me.
So, you want me to just, this is our first time with the big consent, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
This is the greatest thing ever, I mean, especially for y'all, because it's the same time. But every month, every 2 weeks, we have some things that are just very routine. And so what those are, instead of calling each item and having, a separate vote on each one, they're put together, for y'all to look at. I mean, the kind of thing, if you had a question that just stuck out to you, you might call the administration or the staff ahead of time. But usually there's just not much controversy, and I looked at these topics, these are the exact kind of topics that y'all will see on here. One motion takes care of it. Now, if there's something on there that any of you think, you know what, I've just got questions, I really need to understand this better, you say, I'd like to remove this, from the consent agenda. We'll still take what's left on the consent agenda, then we'll take that one up separate and have separate discussion on it. But I think y'all will really like this once we get.
And the motion is just to approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Mayor, I so moved.
The motion would be, I just moved to approve items on the consent agenda.
Okay. Mr. Powell's made a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. McCabe. All in favor? Motion carries. So consent item agendas approved. Our next item on the agenda is we'll consider and take necessary action on resolution 2024-13, approving an agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation regarding the closing of 2 blocks of state highway for the Cotton and Creed concert event.
No, that one's in the consent
That's part of the
agenda.
Oh, we down to number 3.
For all the help, my friends.
But we love listening to you.
Yeah, you should cut me off earlier. Consider and take necessary action regarding a hotel occupancy tax fund request for the World Series team roping, leveling qualifier event. Thank you.
Mayor, members of council, audience, and my microphone is not on. Mayor, members of council, and the audience, this item before you, the Chamber's Tourism Lodging Committee with the World Series team roping event held at the Mallet Center. This item was not in the budgeted funds. That's the reason it's before you tonight. The Lodging Committee has recommended funding of $1,000. The applicant actually requested $5,000, but as I went through their formula and looked at it, which is a very solid formula, their recommendation came back for $1,000. We would ask that you approve their request, and we will amend when we prepare budget amendments. We will prepare this budget amendment accordingly from the hotel motel tax fund for this project, for this event.
Do you guys know what the hotel occupancy, the hot tap is?
I do not.
What
Okay.
is the acronym?
The acronym for it is HOT. What it is when you stay at a lodging facility within a city of Levelland or even in other places, there is a percentage of the tax, or there is a different percentage that goes on the actual room charge. And it can be anywhere from 6%. And there's some cities that have it up to 17 and 18%. So that's why when you go and you saw that you got a room for $100 and it comes out to be $125, it's because of all of those crazy taxes. The hotel occupancy tax that is out there are 9 provisions that must be met in order to qualify for expenditures out of there. The most important one out of that is, does it put heads in beds? Does it put people back into the hotel? This item does. And then there's other provisions within there that must be met as well. They're not as critical. The most important one is, does it
actually get people into the hotel business. And that's part of their formula as well, is when they're looking at the funding, is how many nights, how many rooms will this event actually utilize? Clear as mud?
Absolutely.
Okay, because it's a weird tax to get your hands around.
Animal, but we're able to spend those funds to help bring things to our community and advertise for our community.
Yeah, they're able to use those funds for tax, for advertising and all that.
Do we have a motion?
I know that we authorize funds from the hotel occupancy fund in the amount of $1,000 for the World Series team roping, the Level qualifier.
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to hold a public hearing regarding a substandard structure, and we can just list all these addresses, correct?
Okay, go ahead and open your public hearing.
Okay, at this point in time, at 7:26, we will open our public hearing. Is that correct, Slater?
Yes.
Okay, 7:26, I'm gonna write it down. Regarding the substandard structures located at 1807 Avenue I, 6th Level Land Edition, Block 205-A, Lot 3, 109 Oak Street, SS Ripley, Level Land, Block 2, the west half, and Block 7, the west half, 211 Oak, AM Peach Resurvey, Level Land, Block 2, Lot 8, 101211, South Side Level Land, Block 171, Lot 1, and Lot 2, west half, 1604 Houston, Williams, Leveland, Block 1, Lot 5, Mobile Home, 207 Avenue L, Original Town, Leveland, Block 83, Lot 4. Hi, Eli.
Hello, Mayor, Council, I've got some properties I want to present to you. You just read them off. That the city has found to be a public nuisance due to the substandard structures that are contained on the properties. And I want to read from Article 3.700 Housing Standards, specifically 3.707, 703. Conditions or defects constituting substandard or uninhabitable and dangerous dwellings or buildings. A building, structure, or dwelling is substandard if the structure is dilapidated, unfit for human habitation, and a hazard to public health, safety, and welfare, unoccupied and unsecure from unauthorized entry, and could be entered or used by uninvited people, vagrants, children, etc. And even if it is secured, the building is a danger to the public or the means of securing the building are inadequate. And before I go on, I know with the new council members, if y'all have questions while I'm saying anything, or if you don't understand something, or if I need to clarify something, please don't hesitate to stop me, and I'll do my best. Okay. In my initial inspection of the following properties, the following buildings, dwellings did not meet the minimum standards as set forth by the International Property Maintenance Code and International Building Code, and contain conditions and defects that render said structures uninhabitable and unfit for human occupancy. All owners and persons of interest were notified of the violations in accordance with Article 3.710 of the City Code of Ordinances, and the requirement to abate said violations within 30 days of the date of said notices, and said notices were placed on the substandard structures. In my follow-up inspection of said properties, the substandard buildings and dwellings were not brought into compliance, and all owners and persons of interest were notified in accordance with Article 3.710 of the City Code of Ordinances with a minimum 30-day notice of a public hearing to be held before the Housing Standards Commission, and said notices were placed on the substandard structures. And the notices of public hearing before the Housing Standards Commission were filed in the Hockley County Real Property Records. And on May 14th, 2024, a public hearing was held before the Housing Standards Commission, and it was a recommendation that the following substandard properties be demolished. And all owners and persons of interest were notified in accordance with Article 3.710 of the City Code of Ordinances with a minimum 30-day notice of a public hearing to be held before the City Council, and said notices were placed on the substandard structures. And the following buildings and dwellings contain all or some of the following conditions or defects, but are not limited to The buildings and dwellings are dilapidated, deteriorating, damaged, have inadequate light, air, ventilation, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and sanitation facilities. Exterior walls and structural members lean or buckle. Structures have improperly distributed loads upon floors and roofs and have insufficient strength to be reasonably safe. Structures have insufficient protection from deterioration and the action of the elements, including roofs, exterior walls, doors, windows, and the structures have parts that are so attached that they may fall and injure members of the public or property. Structures don't contain the minimum safeguards to protect or warn occupants in the event of fire. We'll start with the first subject property, 1807 Avenue I. The title report shows owners to be Eligio and Indilesa Bazan. In Hockley County, taxes show to be in the names of Eligio and Indilesa Bazan. In Hockley County Appraisal District records show to be in the names of Eligio and Indilesa Bazan. And these owners have actually been in contact with me throughout the entire process. And he does want to demolish the structure. In fact, let me get to my pictures here. So that's what it originally looked like. That garage is no longer there. He's already knocked that down. And he does want to go ahead and finish demolishing the rest of the house.
I noticed he had shredded the lot. I mean, at least that part was taken care of.
So you feel like, Eli, he's making adequate movement on that?
I
property?
do. They were actually here just earlier, but he had to leave because of work. So he did ask, and I did tell him that I would ask on their behalf for the maximum amount of time, which I believe is 90 days to get that work done. But that is what he is asking. That's what I'm asking in behalf of them. So, with that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
He's bearing full financial responsibility for that.
Yes, sir.
So within
Yes.
90 days, it would be completely demolished, cleaned up.
Yeah, so if y'all give the order for the 90 days, I'll draw up that order. It'll get signed by the mayor. And that'll get mailed out to the owners. And that basically tells them you have 90 days to bring the property in compliance by demolishing the house. If it doesn't, then the city has the authority to step in and to finish or do the
He
demolition.
doesn't
So-
have to come back to us at that time, is
No.
that correct, right? They have
Correct.
the
The
ability.
question
to
though
move
is,
forward.
he's wanting another 90 days. How long has he had to get it done already? And I know he's got the garage off, he has mowed it, but.
Right. I mean, since,
Another
I
90
mean,
days.
it's been, we're already months into this,
Right.
right? So,
Is he gonna just wait until the last minute and go, okay, then I'm there?
well, no, he assured me that they're gonna start at the end of July, and he assured me that within a couple of weeks of them starting, it's gonna get done.
I
I
just take
talked
3
to
more
this-
months and.
I talked to him this evening as well. It is probably what we traditionally see with these is that they wait until they see the city's really serious about this and then they start doing things. We saw it the last time we had some of these, we had a couple that came in, with just, making.
And typically we do 30 days and sometimes we'll do 60 and then 90 is the max that we can do.
Yes,
We
correct.
could put some benchmarks in there. I mean, kind of similar
Oh, that's a
we did
good
to the
idea.
last one.
A
We went
benchmark.
through and said for him to work out a deal, say, 30 days, this must be done and next 30, and just kind of work with him on a plan.
We want them to do it.
Sure.
Definitely, it's cheaper on them and cheaper on us,
Right,
obviously.
yes, absolutely.
But
Just don't want it to linger.
how would that work on the motion at that time, Slater, for the benchmarks? I like that idea.
You authorize code enforcement, working with the city manager,
Expectations.
to develop some benchmarks, for, the complete remediation of the code violations.
Because we can require them to give, progress
Yeah.
throughout this process, so.
30 days they start, within, 45 days, they have it down, within 75 days, they have it clean. I'm making all that up. I don't care
No.
what y'all do or what he does. That's how that would work.
That, even in that motion, if we make the motion that he sets reasonable benchmarks for the progress of.
And I would include that in the order, so that way, I mean, it's part of the order that, we're gonna require, updates at this date, or, however y'all wanna do it, so.
Okay.
Absolutely. There we go. And I didn't show you the way it looks in the back, but there it is. Yes, thank you.
In the past, who has established the benchmarks?
Past, I don't know that we've ever had benchmarks. Am I wrong on that?
We just recently did some
Okay.
with that last group. We went through and Eli and Joe worked with them to develop a timeline for them to do certain things, and they kind of gave us their timeline and we did, but they did pretty good.
So we could just authorize,
Authorize, when y'all do the motion, you can authorize him to work on a timeline benchmark resolution of this within 90 days. And if it's not done, then we do X, Y, Z.
And it'll be in the order, so like, you know, if you want to look at it prior to signing the order, I mean, you can absolutely see what I put in there, and if you think we need to adjust it or tweak it, then I'll be happy to do that, so.
Why didn't we order,
Hold on, we're still in our public hearing.
Okay.
Let's go through these, and then once we close the public hearing, we ought to be in a position to, and
I gotta remember it though.
it goes without saying, I mean, he's making this presentation, and if there's anybody here that wants to address.
Right, and right now, there's, no one for none of these properties, so it should go pretty quickly, so. Any other questions or in regards to this property or? Okay, next subject property is, 109 Oak Street. Title report shows owners to be a Frank and Esther Morales, which I've confirmed with, the daughter that they are deceased. Purchase agreement from Frank and Esther Morales to Noel and Mary Leticia Davila. Mary is the daughter. Warranty deed was not found. Hockley County taxes show to be in the names of Mary Leticia and Noel Davila. Hockley County appraisal district records show to be in the names of Mary Leticia and Noel Davila. So this one, it's been a while since I talked to the owners about this. This has been months ago. This is actually prior to me actually starting a substandard case on this. They had brought another property to my attention, and along with that one, they had plans to demolish this one as well. I never saw any kind of progress there. They never, came back, contacted me about doing that. So I initiated the process of the substandard structure. So, and up to this point, I will say the notices that I've sent out, they've all come back unclaimed. So they're either not picking up their mail or, whatever the case is there. But just, yes, sir. Right, so because I have to mail it out certified, right, and if it comes back unclaimed, that does not affect or refused, that does not affect the validity of the notice. It still can move forward whether it's unclaimed or not. So just to let y'all know. Because I'll get that sometimes from the people that are like, well, I didn't pick it up, I never saw the letter, but I can pull up the track and say, well, it's because, you refused it or it's unclaimed, so.
You posted on the structure itself.
Absolutely, every time, yes. A lot of times they've come in contact with me because of that. They won't pick up their mail, but they'll still come and they're like, well, I saw the notice on my property, so they'll come and talk to me, so. But just to show you a few pictures there, so that's an original, one of the first pictures that I took. And then this is much more recent, I think this is last week when I took these last few pictures here. And again, just keep in mind the description that I read earlier that describes why it's substandard, the condition of the outside, the porch, the siding, I think that window's broken there. The other side's got that tree falling on top. I mean, this house has been vacant for some time. Like I said, the owners did say that they wanted to demolish it at one time, but again, that never played out, so. That's all I have on that one, so.
I hate that this property and the next property are so close together.
Yeah,
When you drive them, the block numbers make them even look farther than what they are in reality, but
so,
structures show themselves.
yes, absolutely. So on the 200 block, we'll go to the next one, 211 Oak Street. Title report shows owners to be a Servando and Maricela Castillo Signs. Hockley County taxes show to be the name of Elias Signs. In fact, Elias Signs was the previous owner. Their family somehow, and he sold it to Servando and Maricela Castillo Signs. But the taxes are still under his name. I guess that hasn't updated yet. Hockley County Appraisal District records show to be in the names of Servando and Maricela Castillo Signs. They too have come to talk to me in the very beginning. In fact, this was a tax property that was sold through TCG, Texas Communities Group. And they contacted me because we have forgot what we call it, an exhibit where it has certain requirements from the city that they have to bring it up to code. And it's in the deed, it's part of the deed, it goes with the property no matter if it gets sold. And that got their attention and they came and contacted me. We talked about it and basically told them like, okay, what are your plans? They're like, well, we want to fix it and do all this. And that was okay, great. And the deed has, I believe, a 6-month clause. Some of them are shorter, some of them longer. So I gave them that time. I said, okay, fine. You got 6 months to bring it into compliance. Again, didn't see no progress, seen nothing done. So again, I reinitiated, to start a case of a substandard structure. And that's why we're here today. And again, the notices have come back unclaimed, no response from them. So, and this is what we're looking at. So that's one of the first pictures that I took, and that's what it looks like as of last week.
This particular property had more notification than all the others because they were notified through their deeds, then through the whole long
Yes.
process that you go through.
Yes, absolutely.
What is that?
That is a cellar in the back. Now, I put this one first because that's actually an older picture, because as of right now, because of the weeds and the vegetation, you can't see it no more. But that's actually part of it making it substandard, because that's dangerous to the public, right? Kid can fall in, somebody can fall in. So that is part of the property being substandard as well. And that's as of last week. Of course, it's there to the right. You wouldn't be able to see it because of all the weeds and the vegetation and the growth, so. But that's all I have on that one. And if anybody has any more questions on that one. Okay, next subject property is 1012 11th Street. Let me get my deal here. The title report shows owners to be Billy Smart and the estate of Cheryl Smart. Hockley County taxes show to be in the name of Billy Smart, and Hockley County Appraisal District records show to be in the name of Billy Smart. Let me go ahead and show you some pictures before I explain a few things. So there's 3 duplexes on this property. So 6 units, I guess. In the beginning, they were unsecured, so there's 1 duplex, second one, third one. And because of that, we ended up boarding it up because of reports that people were getting into them, so we ended up boarding all 3 of the duplexes.
When you drive this property, the problem that I see is all the properties surrounding these little quadrant here of homes are really cute and in
Yeah.
great shape
Yeah.
and have so much pride, and I felt bad for them that they lived across the street or next door to this. They were in great shape.
Yeah.
Can I ask one, if they're not noted as deceased, then we're assuming they're still alive, right? The owners,
Yes,
Did
Yeah,
it
if-
go unclaimed as
They're all-
well?
I'm sorry?
Was it all unclaimed from him as well?
Yes, no, well, okay, yes, all the notices were unclaimed, but because of the notices I put on the structure, he actually called me. And that's what I wanted to also discuss, or to let y'all know that he has been trying to willfully like give the properties up. We've had people in the past that say, well, I don't want the property, like I'll give it to the city or I'll give it to the county. And that's not the way it works, right? We can't just take a property like that. I will say TCG on the newest list that they have been working on, this property is on that list to start the process that they do for seizing the property due to back taxes. And I think he was trying to get that ball rolling and get that done before we go through with this process. But until it actually gets sold at an auction, it's still his responsibility. It all goes to him still. So, but in our conversation, yeah, he was basically trying to tell me the same thing, like, man, I'll give it to the city. I was like, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. It's like, right now, you're still legally responsible for this property. So as we go
If it
through
would
the
go
process.
through the TCG process, then the new owners would have 6 months or so to rehab these properties. Is that right?
Some of the deeds are different. I'm not sure who's responsible for putting those clauses in and determining the time that they get. I think that comes out of
Okay,
Slater's
I thought it was
office,
just
or
rubber
I'm not,
stamp.
is it?
It may just come
or-
out of them.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm not sure. It's not always 6 months. There's some that are shorter and longer, and I don't know how that's determined, to be honest with you, so. You
From
guys
a
would-
real estate point of view, would that be a lot to rehab considering there's multiple
too far.
structures?
There's two
Too
for
far
one.
And there's not just one, there's
No,
multiple.
had it been caught before it got into some of the such disrepair.
Yeah, and yeah, I
it
still
would've
got
been a
the
great
pictures on
property
the
for-
inside.
From a real
Original.
And it
estate
would have
point.
been fantastic for our town, but it's.
If we demolish these structures, the property itself is probably gonna be a lot more valuable than it is the way.
Absolutely, that land will
When it does
sell.
go to auction, I think it'll bring more money with the property.
With the property. And my concern with it going to TCG and then giving somebody 6 months is like, how that's just gonna drag that out more for those.
Right. Well, I will say this,
Neighbors.
even though that's in the deed, that doesn't necessarily have to stop us from starting the process. Like, even though that's in the deed and they may give them 6 months to bring it up to code or whatever, that's kind of a totally different process. We can still do what I do now, regardless of that. So, I know that's kind of weird, and I don't know if Slater wants to expand on that or if he knows what I'm talking about, but I mean, we can still do what we gotta do as a city.
Nobody's gonna buy that, right? And so it's almost like it's the terrible part of being a government. You gotta go through all these unnecessary steps. And so what's gonna happen is we're gonna invest the money to tear these down, and we get a lien on there, but there's also, I guarantee you, 99 out of 100 of these, they owe back taxes. There's old medical liens, there's curb and gutter liens, there's, it just keeps going. And part of what this process is it's a very long and convoluted way to get it. Once that's cleared, somebody buys it and does something with it. I think the only way to look at it and not just be so frustrated is, your community will look better when this process is done.
And Mr. Smart has made no intentions to demolish this himself.
No,
correct?
no, he's trying to wipe his hands from it. He doesn't want the property at all. Cause if not, I mean, TCG wouldn't have picked it up, so that tells me already that he stopped paying taxes on it, so
Yes, correct.
he doesn't want nothing to do with the property. So,
And the other thing, the other kind of mentally healthy way to look at this is you'll do have an obligation to abate nuisances, and nothing good happens in a place like that.
Absolutely.
Especially if we've already had to board up the windows.
Right, well, and those are, you can already see, there's still holes. There's varmints that are living in there, breeding in there. Kids to go exploring. It's a place for vagrants and drug addicts to be. There's not one good thing that's ever gonna happen there. And so abating that nuisance again is part of our obligation. And so those are just some other ways to have to look at it, is from multiple perspectives. Your community's better off with this. It's just unfortunate it has to be this time consuming and cost money because people won't take care of their stuff.
Next property, 1604 Houston, title report shows owner to be Dozier Enterprises LLC, Hoffman County taxes show to be in the name of Dozier Enterprises LLC, and Hoffman County Appraisal District records show to be in the name of Dozier Enterprises LLC. This is actually another one that TCG has picked up. All the mail has come back unclaimed. So, my feel on that is that he doesn't really want nothing to do with the property as well.
And again, you look at this one, which is in some ways on a different level because it is open, you know, I mean, you have open doors, you have,
And because of that, and we were getting complaints, we did go ahead and board it up as well, so. Just to show you the open door, broken window. Of course, we boarded it up and just a few pictures on the inside. We actually dealt with one of his properties probably
Yes, he's been on.
3 years ago, maybe, and he actually went through and demolished it. And in fact, there was two houses on that one lot. I think it was on 12th Street. It was a corner property, but either way. And back then, I mean, he'd call me, we would talk, I mean, we communicated. And, I don't know, this time around, we didn't get nothing from him, so. And that's what I have on that one. Any other questions or? And then the last one, 207 Avenue L. Title report shows owner to be Real Estate Union LLC. Oakley County taxes show to be in the name of Casimir Investments. Again, Casimir had sold it to Real Estate Union. Their family somehow, I don't know how they're related, but they are. But the taxes are still under Casimir Investments. And Hockley County Appraisal District records show to be in the name of Real Estate Union LLC. Now this one, originally, when it went to housing standards, they thought they wanted to fix it. Okay, and housing standards gave them, I think, 90 days, okay, to bring it into compliance, right? Because they thought they wanted to fix it. That didn't happen when I did my follow-up inspection. We took it back to the housing standards. He attended the meeting through Zoom every time. And he basically said on his own that, you know what, it's not worth fixing. I want to go ahead and demolish it. So he does want to demolish it. So he knows that we're here today talking about it. So he does want to demolish it. He does, you know, it's just not worth fixing is what he told me, so.
But he wants
I
to do
agree.
it himself.
I mean, I don't know if he's gonna do it himself or he's gonna, you know, pay a contractor to do it, but yes.
Right,
But
okay.
not the
Yes,
city.
no,
Okay.
not the city. No, he wants to
So we're
comply by doing it.
sandwiched between a bunch that we're gonna have to do and then the.
Right. Well, you know, the other ones that hopefully we don't have to do, I mean, you know, if they listen to the order and a lot of times you know, you've been through plenty of these, Brianne, and a lot of times they don't comply with the
Right.
order, so.
So
We provide them a
that
roll-off
was-
dumpster, like usually two roll-off dumpsters.
Three, we can do up to three.
So we do that to help them and
Just
encourage
saw
them.
one recently over by these Italian Ice, there was one being demolished that I assumed. So
Yes.
when we approve all of this, what we're approving tonight essentially is we're saying they have to demolish.
Yes, if you're gonna take, I mean, considering the recommendation from the housing standards, right, because it's their recommendation. And if y'all make that decision, then you're given the order that the owners have to demolish within this amount of time, 30 days, 60, 90 days. And they have to do it. And if they don't, then we have the authority to step in and hire a contractor to have it done.
And if they were here and gave us a plan
Then we
and
would do
council
kinda like we're doing
decided
We've
to
worked with
let,
them.
give
The
them
first one.
90 days to try to repair that, then they would have 90 days to repair. Then if they did not, then we could immediately move into demo.
So Mayor,
Lots of options.
on this last one, how long does he have? 90 days?
Whatever y'all decide, I mean, he didn't ask for like the full amount, but I mean, he says he's gonna get it done, so whatever y'all decide.
We
I mean-
typically give 60 days on if they're gonna do it themselves. Unless somebody has a full-blown plan, is what we've done in the past. We can do anything we want.
Yeah, I think typically if they've come with a scope, a plan, you know, y'all can work with them more because they're showing the initiative, right?
Right.
If they don't come and they're not, you know, here to speak, you know, on
How
behalf of,
big is that house rough?
it's not very big. It's,
It looks tiny.
yeah, it's a small house. It's,
Say that because I would think it would be easier, cheaper, and maybe quicker. Maybe you wouldn't need the whole 90 days. This was not a TCG property,
no,
correct?
no.
Okay.
Probably about 900 square feet.
Okay.
And that's all I have on that.
Essentially, the first property we're looking at doing the benchmarks for 90 days. We're doing at this point, the rest of them. I say 60 days. If that's what y'all normally do, 60 days.
We need to close.
60 days on the rest apart from the first one. I'm good with that.
So, yeah,
To close
Mayor,
the
go ahead and
public-
ask if there's anybody else who wants to comment.
Anyone that wants to speak in public hearing regarding these standard structures? If not, we will close the public hearing at 7:56. Thank you. We'll close that public hearing, and then we will move on to the next item, which is to consider and take necessary action and issue any necessary orders to abate, repair, secure, or demolish regarding substandard structures located at 1807 Avenue I, 109 Oak Street, 211 Oak, 1012 11th, 1604 Houston, and 207 Avenue F. Okay, so,
Mayor, I would move that we issue an order for Eli to develop a benchmark and improvements. Or we will abate that property at 1807 Avenue I, or we would have authority to abate that property at 1807 Avenue I, within 90 days.
I second.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next property is 109 Oak Street. Can we, Slater, I'm sorry, do we have the ability with those four to do them together in one motion, just property after property?
Have to read them off or just say aforementioned.
I would say they're remaining. Under that.
I move to
Just move for items 5.2 through 5.6.
5.2, 4.2.
It's five, number
Okay.
5, it should be.
Yeah, I don't mind. I move that we issue orders to abate and demolish substandard structures of the remainder properties, 4.2 through 4.6. As discussed earlier, giving them 60 days to demolish. If not, then we reserve the right to step in and do that ourselves.
Motion and a second. Do we need to correct that to 5.2?
Clarification, that is agenda item 5.2.
I still said 40.
Okay.
It's
For
okay.
for clarification, it's 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, and 5.6.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Eli. for the
Appreciate it.
great
Thank
work
you.
that you always
Mayor,
give us.
Council. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to consider and take necessary action on an interlocal agreement with Texas Health Benefits Pool.
Mayor and members of council, this is more of a housekeeping item. This is something that we were made aware of when the city had health insurance through the Texas Health Benefits Pool. At that time, and no one really knows when this occurred, but they allowed two of our former employees, retirees, to get onto the health insurance. They pay for everything. The city doesn't have any dog in this hunt. It just allows them another option for retiree health insurance, Medicaid, and all those weird options, Medicare supplement. So I can't discuss this much because I get in trouble by the city secretary. So I'm just going to leave it there and move on.
Well, we definitely don't want to do anything to hurt those city employees, and it's no problem for the city that I see.
I move to approve the interlocal agreement with Texas Health Benefits Pool.
Second.
Motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is to consider and take necessary action on resolution number 2024-11, awarding a 3-year depository contract for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2027, with 2 one-year extension options under the same terms and conditions.
Hi, Cynthia. How are you?
Hey, good. How are y'all?
Did
Good
you have a great
evening.
birthday? I was gonna come tell you happy birthday the other day when I was here. It was on your birthday, but I didn't see you.
I had training, but I ate a lot of good food, and that's what makes me happy. So it was definitely a good birthday. Thank you. Okay, mayors and members of the council, I'm bringing forward the proposed action for our primary depository. Just to recap. There it goes. The initial agreement will begin on August 1st and ends on September 30th. I believe the mayor went over those dates, but just so you can see them here. Wanted to introduce the investment policy really quickly as it pertains to the depository contract. The city of Loveland shall manage and invest its cash with 4 objectives listed in priority: safety, liquidity, yield, and public trust. The safety of the principal invested always remains the primary objective. A couple of things to consider when we're talking about safety as far as the depository contract goes: fraud protection, cybersecurity preparedness, the online portal, and positive pay. Also, the Municipal Depository Act reads, governing body may consider the application that deems to be the most advantaged depository services applications. And
Can you explain positive pay, because it came up tonight during the economic development deal, they kind of flew through it, and I think it's critical.
I'm happy to do so. That is gonna be in a later slide, but if you guys want to jump into it now, I'm more than happy to.
I think it's in here anyway.
Okay,
What do y'all think?
Then just go.
Okay. Okay, no worries. Okay, so, when we got the applications, we received 3 applications. Reviewing the applications, this was the criteria that was considered: ability to perform the required and requested services, references and quality of services, cost of services. Both want to note here that both Citibank and Sundown Bank are waiving all of those fees. Interest paid on interest-bearing accounts, earnings, credit calculation on compensating balances, completeness of their applications, their physical location, previous service relationship with the city, and the financial strength and stability of the institution. After reviewing the submitted documents, we did invite both Citibank and Sundown Bank to come in and meet with city staff and present their online platforms. And this is where we'll get into what positive pay means. The bigger differences between the 2 banks: there's an earlier cutoff time. Sundown Bank has 2 p.m. where Citibank has 4 p.m. That doesn't always, it's not always a factor with every wire cutoff time, but sometimes an invoice is missed, sometimes it slips through the cracks and we don't know until 1:30 sometime after lunch. Those can get done quickly, but like I said, if it's sometime after lunch, that 2 o'clock timeframe is gonna come a lot quicker than that 4 p.m. timeframe. Granted, both banks have just said if we can reach out to them, keep that communication there, they're willing to work with us, but just those timeframes do make a big difference. There was a limited mobility app on as far as Sundown Bank. I know it doesn't seem like we use our mobile apps a whole lot, but right now we're in summer time frame. A lot of us take our summer vacations, and sometimes we just need access to the mobile app. Positive pay can be done through the mobile app. Positive pay has to be done Monday through Saturday. So if me or Nancy are the ones that take care of positive pay. If we don't have access to do that through the mobile app, we're coming up here on a Saturday. Nancy and I are really great at tag teaming. If I happen to be out of office, out of town where I can't come into the office, I don't want to put that burden on Nancy.
But you could do that from a laptop from home, correct?
Yes, that is possible. Yes, ma'am. And then we're going to jump into positive pay. So the way positive pay works, we have our checks that we print and we create a report through Encode that we send to the bank. They're taking that report that we send them and comparing it to when the checks are deposited. So there's a number of triggers that can cause the checks to be sent through for a decision. It's called an exception for either me or Nancy to review. One of them is if the check that is sent to the payee is deposited via mobile app. We just talked about how uncommon it is to use a mobile app. So that's automatically going to send a red flag, and they want us to make sure whoever deposited it was supposed to have that check. The report that we send to them, if the check number and the check number doesn't match the report that we send them, it'll flag it. For instance, I'm reconciling bank recs right now. In December, we forgot to press a button to reverse print. So all of the checks that we sent and the report didn't match. So all of those checks came back through the positive pay. The biggest one that comes up on a daily basis is the payee information. So what that does is it compares the payee information on the check to the endorsement on the back. A lot of payees automatically print on the back. With us, we do the same thing. We put the check through the machine and it prints City of Levelland, so we're covered there. Some vendors don't have that. They just print their routing number, the bank account information, and they send it through. It's up to us, me and Nancy, to make sure that that information is matching. Sometimes you have a vendor that's doing business as, so you'll have the business name, but then somebody comes and signs it as their personal name because they're depositing the check. So they just want us to make sure, is this correct? Is that's what supposed to be happening? Unfortunately, Sundown Bank doesn't have the capability to compare the payee name to the report that is sent to them. And like I mentioned previously, 98% of the time, those are the flags that are coming through.
But you can look them up by check number and amount, correct?
On our end, yes.
And positive pay is the future. It is the fraud deterrent of check writing. It is the future. It is a must-have in
Yes,
finance moving forward.
unfortunately, they're getting creative. They're learning
Yes.
how to wash the checks. They're finding the loopholes, no matter how small they are. That's where we're moving to. Any questions regarding positive pay, anything that didn't make sense?
You're saying that Citibank has it, but Sundown Bank does not have the positive pay?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
Sundown Bank has positive pay. So same thing, if somebody deposited via mobile app, it would flag on there. The biggest difference between the two banks, Sundown Bank doesn't check the payee name, so it wouldn't send up a red flag and we wouldn't have to check that on our end. Does that make sense?
Multiple ways to flag them by amount, check numbers, and payee name.
Mhm.
Citibank can do all three, Sundown can do two.
Okay.
Good to go on positive pay? Awesome. Another thing to consider is the bank size. Right now, Sundown Bank is at 2.6 million, where Citibank is at 4.2 billion. This is a big thing for us to consider. It just shows us the bank's capability to be able to invest back in technology and infrastructure. Now, it's not to say that Sundown Bank won't be able to do that. There's just a massive difference between the two.
But that was not a contingency in the bid, correct?
It was not, no ma'am. Next item to consider, the interest earned. So what I've been able to come up with here is just some different scenarios as far as the interest rate. This first column on the top half of the chart is what was presented. The scenarios behind it are just that, they're just scenarios. If something were to happen and it shows you that difference, the bottom half of the chart is showing you the dollar amount differences. That very, very bottom, like the contract difference, is what it would look like over the contract. A big thing that I want to point out in the difference of the APY rate, Citibank is indexed at 90% of the tax pool 7-day yield. So I took a screenshot. You can't really see it up here, so thankfully you guys have your packet. That was pulled 2-day. 2-day, the tax pool yield rate is 5.32, so we get 90% of that. With Sundown Bank, theirs is 100% of the 3-month T-bill. I couldn't find a chart to show the same thing like today, what today's rate is. So since our contract is over a 5-year rate, I pulled the last 5-year data for the 3-month T-bill. In doing research, I put it in small print here. The T-bill rate is predicted to fall in the coming months, which is why we presented the scenarios above. In the event that it does go down, this is what it's going to look like. Any questions there?
Wasn't it in the bid that, doesn't Citibank adjust their rates more than, Sundown? Don't they adjust monthly compared to Citibank, maybe twice a month? We did better.
Well, yes, and that's because of the yield rate that they're giving us. The text pool is a 7-day yield, so it does change every 7 days and they're checking it. That's why it changes, not necessarily. That would be the only reason that it changes the way that it does. Is because that yield rate does fluctuate, whether it's minimal or whether it is a big jump, it does fluctuate. So they hold true to it and they adjust their rate as per the contract. Any questions there? Awesome. Another thing that was in the requests was the credit, per the investment policy, the credit worthiness of the institution shall be considered. This is why we requested 3 references from both banks. Sundown Bank provided 2 references, Citibank provided 3, and we also wanted to note that they are the depository for the city of Odessa. So in conclusion, the staff recommends awarding the depository services contract to Citibank while also considering at a later date the movement of funds into tax pool to take advantage of that 7-day yield rate. Citibank services are more robust than those offered by Sundown Bank. Citibank has a proven track record of performance as a current depository and a bank that honors its commitments. And as it relates to the investment policy, Citibank meets the safety priority more adequately. And I want to touch on cybersecurity here. In meeting with the banks, Citibank has procedures and plans in place if they get attacked by cybersecurity or have a cybersecurity attack, and if we have a cybersecurity attack. In meeting with Sundown Bank, they have plans in place if they get attacked, not necessarily us as a client of theirs. So that was a big cause of concern. Again, they're more than willing to work with us. Thankfully, neither bank has had any cybersecurity attacks, and they are both more than willing to work with us in the unfortunate event that does happen. It's just that Citibank already has those plans in place.
That helps us with our.
Yes, sir.
stuff too, so we are covered on ours.
Yes, sir.
So I kind of dug into this. I've spoken with a lot of staff members and I'm just gonna give you my opinion. I'm just gonna lay it out there. I don't even get to vote, you know? I don't get to vote. So you make a compelling presentation. Citibank has done nothing wrong. They've been great to us. Thank you, Citibank, for being such a good bank to the city of Levelland through these contracts. In my opinion, we bid this out. We did it. We said, here's what, bid your best rate, bid your best rate. And in my opinion, Sundown State Bank put together the most competitive rate. And they checked the other boxes and they're adequate. It's their contract to lose, in my opinion. You know, that's nearly $1,000 a month worth of income as we set right now. I don't know if I can defend to the public how we would not choose them for over $1,000 a month. Yes, rates can change. They're going to change. They're going to change at every bank. They're going to be competitive. They don't want to eat those costs. So I'm very interested to hear what council says.
Prior to that, I want to make a counter to that. This is not an investment contract. If it were, completely, wholly, and totally agree. It's a banking services contract. So the bid was not just for an APY rate. It wasn't. It was all the services
Sure.
that the bank entails. So
I agree.
that would be my only
Sure.
response
And
to
I
that.
just think that on the mobile app, oh man, I'm worried a little bit that you're doing it on the mobile app anyway. Like, oh, should we go to a more safer laptop? I think, in my opinion, from a little bit of banking experience, the positive pay for the check number and the amount, I think we should be okay on that. But what do you guys think?
I agree with you on that. And like I said, we bid that thing out and Sundown won the bid. If we're gonna
Can
use.
you just explain to me? I don't see what slide explains Because Citibank has the lower rates on this thing that I'm looking at.
But
So
you-
where,
you
what
want a
am I
higher
missing?
rate. This is
Okay,
earning rate.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm.
Yes. But Cynthia's
Listen,
exactly
I'm
right.
used to
I mean, if
needing the
we're
lower
keeping,
rates on everything.
if we're keeping too much money in there, moving as much money out to tax pool where we can earn more money, it's what the city needs to do regardless.
Mhm.
That's the best decision for us to do where we can earn the most money on our investments. Definitely need to look at that.
So what are you saying?
Cynthia had said that she believes, in her opinion, we're leaving too much in the bank at one time to begin with. We can move money to tax pool within a day, right? Less than the same day. And if they offer a better rate. Well, I mean, she agrees as a professional and
Right.
does a great job. We need to be doing that. It was just a side note on the tax pool investment.
Again, we sent out the parameters. This is what we wanted through that company, which hired a firm to look this over, and they came back and their recommendation was Sundown State Bank. They're the ones that won that, correct?
No,
Their recommendation is Citibank.
Their recommendation, council, this, and I know where the rates are. But the depository contract is more than just rates. There's a lot of components that go with it. And we're very fortunate that we do have, banks that want to do our depository, because there are a lot of places people don't want government business because there's a lot of things that go with it. I don't think we can lose with either bank that we have. Both of them are very community minded. Both of them will take good care of our city. But I'm just, staff, we will do what council wants, but I'm gonna tell you that I have looked this over and over, and I've had conversations, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, and Cynthia and others. I still think the best interest of the city is to stay with our current depository. But if y'all feel that Sundown is where we need to go, then we will begin the process of making those changes.
I think we really need to stay with who we've got. There's a lot of trauma associated with moving to banks. It's like city manager said, there's a lot of components other than just the depository. And I think we need to continue with who we're doing business with here, because I think we have a lot more to lose if we try to switch right now than if we just stay with who we're with.
And I agree, there's trauma that it's difficult. I work in this industry too. It is getting easier. It is, just to counter that a little bit, then why did we bid it out?
We have to, we're required.
Exactly, we're required to. So
But if we bid it out and the company that we hired to do it is who is recommending that we stay with Citibank, correct?
Correct.
And is that this Valley View Consulting?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll say something, and I don't care. I can anybody in this room. But it's that time of the year, and I'm seeing these a lot. Not to influence anyone. Y'all had multiple things that y'all wanted addressed, not just the rate. And so as my client, which is what y'all are, you think about all of those, and I'm not saying any of them would outweigh. I mean, everybody will have their own way of measuring, but it's not just that. I mean, y'all had several categories that y'all wanted addressed. And so, I couldn't tell you, if you asked me right now where the other ones came down, I couldn't tell you, but just a little broader than interest rate. But it may, I mean, each one of you gets to weigh it. I mean, the interest rate may be 95% important to someone, to somebody else, it might be 20. That's for y'all, but just make sure you look at all of it, so that you're comfortable with whatever your decision is. I can assure you, that your administration will do whatever y'all want.
And I really have dug into it, and I believe there are multiple factors, and I know that one of the factors is change and what that will cost in time and staff's time and mental mindset for being able to do that. I think that the issues with Positive Pay and the mobile app and the wire cutoff, I think that's kind of, in my opinion, are kind of all just moot. So it just comes down to, in my opinion, just for me, and again, I don't even get to vote, is the rate versus the physical staff cost of the change.
I do agree with that, but per the investment policy, I want to remind you, the yield rate falls as third priority. The first priority is the safety of it. And if
But
we
I
want,
believe it's gonna be safe at Sundown State Bank.
right, again, them being prepared for cybersecurity, we're not necessarily, they don't have a plan in place for us. The online portal, there's a lot that goes into just the safety, and per the investment policy, that is still priority over the yield rate.
I just believe I'm going to have trouble explaining to the public why a decision was made for $1,000 a month to go another way. I've said a whole bunch. I will stop now.
No, but you have more experience in banking than us on the.
I sure don't. I don't know everything. I've just dug into this and done some research. That's all I'll say. So, any more discussion on that item? Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution 2024-11, awarding a 3-year depository contract to Citibank.
This is when it gets tough, Jamie. Somebody, if it doesn't have a second, the motion dies for lack of a second.
And then what happens?
Then
Keep
we
addressing.
start talking again and we make a decision. Which is,
Healthy.
that's what happens.
You don't hurt my feelings if you don't say it.
Okay. Can we dial that motion for a minute? So
That motion dies for lack of a second. Can we
You can
say
have
that?
discussion in
for a
between
second,
things.
I can do it. I'll make a motion again. I'm having a hard time because I see where you're coming from. $1,000 is a big deal.
Right.
It's a lot, especially when we have people that are frustrated at little things like getting new trash cans at a park because
Mhm.
they don't know where that money's coming from. And yet we're sitting here saying we're gonna throw away $1,000. But I also see moving bank is huge, and I'm all about the priorities. And while I do agree, mobile banking is absolutely terrifying for a huge entity like that, so maybe that does need to be looked into and discussed. On the forefront, I'm also all about convenience.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing like, okay, so the rate, yes, but everything else, I feel like it's the rate only is what Sundown State Bank won. The rest of it, Citibank won 100%.
Right.
So that's where I'm torn. I don't want to throw $1,000 away. I don't know how rates work. I don't know how banking.
I get that, and this is why I'm proposing for us to consider moving more funds into tax pool. We'll make that money back. There are other ways to make the money back that we feel we're losing. And coming into this position, I'll tell you this. The bank recs hadn't been done in almost a year. With the online portal capabilities that Citibank has, because I had a team of, from TML come in and help me. If we didn't have the portal that Citibank has, we would have been up creek without a paddle. I was able to pull back 18 months worth of transactions. That's uncommon, that's unheard of. A lot of
Sundown State Bank wouldn't have had.
they
that
only
rate.
had 6 months, and that would have barely got me back to the beginning of this fiscal year. We were still
could have
working.
asked them for state.
We
right?
could
God
have
willing,
asked
we're
that.
never in the situation where you leave us and we have to try
Yeah.
to figure it
Right,
out, but.
we could have asked Sundown Bank, but that left one less call that I had to make. All of the reports were there electronically. I pulled them and was able to work more swiftly. We're in modern age where I can do everything through Excel, through other apps that are on the computer. If I'm confident that Sundown Bank, had they been our depository, would have been able to get me those bank statements. It would have just created more work. I get that that's not something, it's not a high priority of what, I'm not afraid to change. I want to express that I'm not. I just feel without the services that Citibank is offering, that Sundown Bank doesn't have, it's not the work as far as making the transition, it's creating work and day-to-day operations. The work has nothing to do with the transition.
Well, and on a day-to-day basis, the extra work's not a big deal, but when you're in a situation like you were when you took over,
It's a lot.
was all-
It would have been a whole lot. It would have been another hurdle to get over. And
Situation shouldn't happen again.
right, oh,
Right.
right, like I said, God
Really.
forbid that ever
I'm
happens.
working on it
Like,
right now.
Right.
but the thing about it is unfortunately, we have to plan for, I mean, we have to think about, can you explain text pool a little more?
Text pool, and forgive me, I might not explain it very thoroughly, so James, please hop in if I'm not explaining this correctly. It's legitimately a pool that we can send money into, and it has a higher interest rate than that of a bank. Most CDs, they have the capability of giving you a higher rate, so you send money there. You let it sit there and accumulate the interest rate. If and when you need to pull out from it, you can, and it's an investment option.
Does it cost us when we pull it out like a,
No, it
401k?
doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Tax pool is made up of government entities all throughout the state.
and that interest rate, that rate is higher than Sundown State, so.
Higher than ever.
It's
Right,
traditionally stronger, pool, and we do need to do a better job of moving our money. We've been without a finance person for a while, been playing catch up. Yeah, there's things that happen that shouldn't have happened. But, we're on the path moving forward, and we've got to have make it work with us and go through the unexpected. Let me address the mobile app real quick, because I know this. We don't do a whole lot of banking on it. The biggest thing we don't have a problem is positive pay, is being able to address that issue. But at the same time, I think this disaster that we just are coming through helped us, because a lot of us were out of the office, we were moving around. And we were able to look at some things that were coming up without having to try to come back this way. It's not that we're doing major transactions on it.
So essentially, if a red flag comes through on a Saturday, you have it right there.
I still have to get it done, whether it's through laptop, whether it's through the mobile app, it still has to be done. If it's not done,
And it has
there's
to be
that.
done quickly.
It has to be done by 2 p.m. Monday
if
through
you're at-
Saturday.
Lunch and don't have a laptop, laptop's not an option.
Right. And we don't want me logging in.
You're looking at this, and you're looking at $1,000 a month. So on the other side, what do we give up?
If we transition,
If you change banks, what do you give up? If you gain $1,000, what do you give up? I mean, we've got, as I understand it, we paid a company to do this.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So really, you're
How much
giving
do we pay them?
the three
Yeah,
standards
irrespective,
of positive
pay 'em.
pay. You're only getting two with Sundown State. That's little bitty, right?
it's not
It's
little
not
bitty.
little bitty?
They,
Okay, that's
they,
an issue.
so when the positive pay is triggered by the bank. They take the report that we get, when the check is deposited, if the payee names don't match, the bank tells us, hey, double check this, make sure it's okay to cash this
So
check.
we want all three of those.
Yes, the payee one is important. 98% of the returns or the exceptions we have to do are because the payee name and the endorsement on the back don't match.
Can't you look it up by the check number?
If the flag for us to check it by the check number, if they don't tell us we need to check it,
They're not gonna
we're not
check
gonna
it.
know to check it. They have to tell us, hey, is this okay? They don't have that filter in place to say this might be wrong. They're not checking payee
So
information.
the bank wouldn't flag it.
We wouldn't know to check it, the bank wouldn't know to check it because they don't have that capability.
Go back one more time. We paid a company to do this for us. They've made a recommendation and we're not taking the recommendation.
The
We haven't
decision
decided
on
yet.
the
Pardon me?
floor. The
We haven't
decision on
decided.
the floor.
Okay, but if we go with Sundown, we didn't take the recommendation.
Correct.
I would
If
just,
we don't take the advice of our attorney,
I'm gonna have a little trouble. I've said what I've said about the $1,000. I believe that validating it on moving the money to make up for the lost money, moving it to tax pool, I believe that ethically dilutes the bid. Then why did we bid it out? That's my opinion. If you're going on the bid, then we diluted that by validating it by, well, we'll just move more money to tax pool. I mean, we should be doing that anyway, which we have a plan to do that.
Mhm.
We know that.
We had to bid it out.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
so we
Yes.
had
We didn't
to
have to
bid
use
it
that
out.
firm. Pardon? We didn't have to use that firm. That was, yeah.
But if we don't take their recommendation, we kind of wasted money on that.
So it's 12,000 to 20,000 then.
He's 1,000 a month, it's 12,000.
Oh,
And the thing is, the money that's sitting in interest could be 1,000, could be 15, it could be more, it could be less.
That's the rate.
And so those,
Whatever's on deposit.
you know, it's one piece of the evaluation. And it's just like when we review a grant, award a grant, you look at multiple pieces of criteria. The same thing when you do bids, you look at everything that's in there. It's not, traditionally, it's not just one thing that's, okay, that's it, we're golden. That's why you have evaluation criteria to go through it. I understand. I wish the interest numbers were exactly the same. And we probably wouldn't be having this discussion, but there's
we
different.
would not.
And, but again, it's more than just that number, and that interest numbers are all over the chart, and depending which financial person's stuff you read, interest rates are gonna go down, and then others are gonna be flat, and I think I've only read one that said they're gonna go up, and I don't know what he's reading or what he's thinking of, but I don't see that occurring.
In reality, we could award this to Sundown Bank tomorrow. We could move over,
Mm.
and in January, I know it's not happening that fast. This is hypothetical
Okay.
speaking here. I expect you to have it done tomorrow. But then, is that locked in? No, they change, right? So essentially come January, Citibank could have the lower one and then we're still losing the money.
It could, I mean, anything can
I
happen
need
with.
the low interest rates, not the high interest rates.
Banks will be, they'll be different, but
Right,
they'll
they
be
fluctuate just
steady.
like-
They just, when a bidding process, they're gonna try to put their most competitive rate, because they're trying to win. It's
Absolutely.
business and people are trying to win.
Just relate what I do in my business, and there's some not a lot of corollary probably, but, you know, we have to bid it every 5 years too. And, interest rate, frankly, interest rate's not a big deal in our process. Now, interest rate personally to me, that's a big deal, and probably to everybody here, but in my business, we're not out to score big money with interest. And I don't know that that's the big goal that the city should have. You know, and if you think that the $1,000 a month is that important that we go with, or we change, then, so be it. But I really don't think that that's that big a deal. And if you're talking to people who raise the issue, then there are other considerations that had to be made in this whole process. I can restate my motion.
You always can, Bill. You always can. So, those are our options. We can, pick one or table it. Those are the options. Put that on.
Giving me a headache, y'all.
Will it change if we table?
That's what I was gonna
Good
say,
point.
things could change if we table, plus it's just gonna draw this out, and I feel like we tabled it, we tabled it 2
won't
weeks
change.
ago.
It won't change if we table
Why
it.
can't we wait till Max comes back?
It won't change?
That's a month.
Till who comes back? Max?
over a
That's
month.
gonna be August.
Like I say, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. I've said what I'm gonna say, and, I stand by what I'm saying. I really think that I think it's an issue that's not as big as we're trying to make it. And I just hate to see the city have to go through the trauma of changing the bank.
And a note on if we table it, if we award it to Sundown Bank, there has to be an implementation plan in place. I don't, outside of communicating with them, that's their big thing, just communicate with us, and that's amazing. Yes, I want to feel comfortable enough that I can pick up the phone and say, this is what's happening, what do we do? Know each other on a first name basis. I love that. The implementation process is not there yet. The plan that they have is communication. If we wait and table it, we're just giving them less time to develop that plan.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that
It's
out
a
there
very
to you.
good one. I don't think there's any good, like Michael said, from tabling it. That just drags this on for everyone. That's not helpful.
Just pull the Band-Aid off and then.
No one's gonna be upset with you, I promise, no matter what you
Look
decide.
at me. I am never indecisive, okay, but I see both sides here. I see both sides 100%.
Yeah, I do too, I do.
Which way
I've
you
been there.
sway makes me a little woozy.
I've been-
I'm too new for this.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, the city's got a lot of work to do, and this is a lot of tedious things that are gonna take place. It's gonna take a lot of time and a lot of.
Oh, I know, there's way bigger things for me to be
Accommodation
stressed
and-
about than a bank.
If we were
No.
talking about city
You're like,
bank
no, this is
in the
what-
past, and they didn't do a good job for us, and I understand that they've done a good job for us, then yeah, maybe we ought to make the consideration, and not just on the basis of an interest rate.
They
on the basis of
did,
Poor performance.
on that,
We don't have that.
we did research, when COVID hit. A lot of banks opted out of their contracts, which was understandable. We were fortunate enough that, Citibank did not do that, and they didn't adjust the APY rate. I'm gonna say this incorrectly, at baseline, I think it was even 0.5 above. So at a time when they could have abandoned ship, it would have been completely understandable. It would have. They didn't. And they chose to offer us the APY rate at a cost to them. So they lost money on that just to honor the contract that they had with us.
Any more discussion? We have a motion?
I'm nauseous.
You already have a motion. You just did it.
The first one died, so we gotta have a new one.
Did it die even though we had?
Killed it. I literally said, can we put this? We're done.
So,
Is that the first motion you killed? Congratulations.
I hope it's my last one. I'm only a
Oh, I
Monday.
hope it's not.
I'm kidding.
We have a
Do your
motion?
thing. Not you.
I've done my thing.
Oh, you gotta do it again.
do it again.
Sorry.
God, for a lack of a
Oh,
second.
oh, it did. Okay, well, I move that the city council adopt resolution 2024-11 and award a 3-year depository contract to Citibank.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion has a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2024-11 has been awarded to Citibank.
can I say something?
Yes.
Because I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to be seen as trying to influence. But to the extent that y'all are asked questions about this, it's done. And I invite and ask everybody to be supportive of the final one.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But think about this, if somebody's asking about it. If it was just the interest rate that mattered, we would have had, that would have been the only thing requested, and we wouldn't have the consultant, because then it's just math, right? And so y'all hired professionals to look at this from many different perspectives, and that was the recommendation they came up with. Again, if it's easy, everybody would do it. But I just invite y'all to think about that approach, and the good thing is y'all are gonna be fine either way. I appreciate the way y'all handled that.
What I would like to say is how civil and, professional that was.
Mhm.
Even if I was calling myself out, we were going at you, Cynthia.
No
I
comment.
did not know.
No comment.
Okay.
It was just very nice to be able to discuss in a professional,
Sure. And like I say, it wouldn't, you know,
Well,
I
and if
feel
you
that
look at it, we hired her, we did not, I was not a part of that. To do your job, and but obviously it was a fantastic presentation that brought a lot of questions. And I clearly have no clue what I was doing, so thank you for
You're all
putting
right.
up
You're
with
learning
those
as you
questions.
go. Learning as you go.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Our next item is we'll have a presentation about the weather incident of May 29, 2020.
Mayor, members of council, as you see in your packet, our Disaster Resource Center is open. They've FEMA has received about 1,027 registrations. We're encouraging everybody to go by there and talk to them. I mean, even if you've gotten a denied letter, even if they told you no, go back and visit with them. Small Business Administration's been there. South Plains Community Action's been there. Red Cross has been there. Go by and talk to them and let them try to help you. The biggest challenge that we're having right now is the removal of debris piles. The big pile that we cleaned up on the west side of town, they're reinvigorating and using it. We've cleaned it up twice since we emptied it the first time. So we're gonna, well, I think it's like the gremlins. If you feed them after midnight, they morph. I think that's what's occurring now is people are just, we've had some calls that have asked about us getting tires. They said, where do I take them? And we said, you take them to the landfill, there's a charge for them. Well, I'll just take them to the debris pile then and add them to everything else. So we know we've got to get these piles out of here, otherwise this is going to continue. But again, we've also had places where we've cleaned it up completely and they just come back and started dumping again. So please be patient with us. It is extremely frustrating and aggravating that we're trying to get it clean, and it's just, I don't know where all this stuff is coming from, but we're going to continue to work hard on it. But we are moving forward as a community. So that's all I have. Y'all any questions
Give
on?
yourself some credit for that. I was out of town for a week and I see the progress. I understand it reproduces overnight and that's very frustrating, especially if you're the person that hauled it off. But I saw progress and I'm very thankful for all the work the city has done at those debris piles every day.
Mhm.
And that the county and all our other partners have helped us with to get that stuff hauled off. They told us from the beginning that debris would be our #1 problem.
And
they
what's
were right.
this? The smartest thing we did was kill the donations beginning, because otherwise that would have been, they would have been competing with the debris pile for stuff. So, but we'll keep working hard on it. I know it doesn't look pretty, but we're trying real hard to get it out of there as fast as we can.
And the plan is the one at Sherman and Douglas is closed, correct?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
is that the one that keeps getting?
It's
It-
supposed to be closed, I will say.
It's
Okay.
it still is having visitors, and we're trying our best to, if you've got debris, take it to the rail park. But it's just, it's huge.
Reason behind that is it's a city-owned facility and we're trying to get all of that property on our property and not on privately owned property.
That is correct.
Don't scavenge in it.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 9, discussion on the fiscal year 25 budget.
Mayor, members of council and the audience, in the last council meeting, we gave you a budget calendar that listed all of the dates. If those dates are okay with y'all, we're going to be posting that tomorrow on Facebook and other places. Our budget meetings are open to the public. Everyone is welcome to attend. And staff is also available to visit with any member of the public that's got questions on the budget or just why we do what we do. We have a huge challenge in front of us as we move forward, and especially as we continue to make Levelland the preferred city of the South Plains. But we've got, by the 16th, I'm supposed to hand y'all a preliminary budget. So for the next 2 weeks, this will be my life. But we'll have that to y'all, and then we will begin in earnest the budget discussions come August. anytime y'all have any questions, anytime y'all want to meet with me, it does not have to be between 8 and 5. I understand y'all have got busy schedules. Let me know and we will plan accordingly.
Sounds great. Was that item number 10 as well, or no? City manager report?
No, ma'am.
Okay, moving on to item 10, city manager report.
Item 10 is a little bit more entertaining.
I'll wait till we budget.
Oh, no, y'all
That
are
was just
gonna wish that
precursor.
y'all didn't, that I didn't come on here, because I ask lots of questions.
No, we want you
And
to,
I second guess myself all the time, just so you know.
Councilmember Cab, I want you to ask questions.
I know,
I,
I'm supposed to do.
because the question that you ask is probably the question 25 other people have been wanting to ask, they just don't want to. I'm gonna go through this quickly. Red flower beetle. The trap network for June 27th, which was last week, are showing 0 catches. So, for the 19 weeks we've been doing this traps, we've had a total of 16 red flower beetles. I'm not discounting that we still have some red flower beetles out there. We are spraying, I'll be meeting with Penny Newman this week to discuss their stuff. And we're not saying Penny Newman is the source, but they are also moving their commodities out of there very, very quickly. So we will continue to do everything we can to mitigate this. Some people may not want to hear it, but some of the homes in that area may have become the sources as well. But we will work hard to do everything we can. The TxDOT College project, this does not surprise me. It's been pushed back to July 15th. But it's still moving forward. City offices will be closed this Thursday. Probably one of the biggest things, Sunday, July 7th, 6 p.m. is our community celebration. We've had it's going to be a fun time. We're trying to get the word out to everybody. It's to honor our volunteers. It's to thank our volunteers for, I think Cole's last thing that I heard was over 4,000 volunteer hours were given during this event. And there's probably even more so since then. So we are truly a blessed community. We're a place that if you're looking to locate a business, you need to come here because our businesses really stepped up. I was really impressed and grateful for everything that they did. The city, the KCBD's community coverage is Thursday, July 11th. We're still working on the Seal Coat project so that we can do the college's streets on weekend. Hockley County Appraisal District has an opening on their board. This will be on our July 15th agenda. Probably the biggest thing, and this came about today, it's on page 2. It's a separate memo from Joe to me. For those of y'all that have been on council before, realize that this can happen. Our landfill, I'll just read this to you. The Levelland landfill is permitted through the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality as an area exempt landfill. This means we're only able to receive a total of 7,300 tons a year of type 1 waste, household garbage, and 7,300 tons of type 4 waste, construction demolition. Since our landfill falls under TCQ, we must follow the state's fiscal year, which runs September through August for our reporting period. The city has reached our capacity for only our type 1 pit at this time, causing delays for our citizens. We can't accept any more household waste out at our landfill for the next 2 months. So that means Republic is going to have to take trash to landfills in Lubbock, Abernathy, just away from us, which is going to delay the time of picking up the town. This is just one of those unfortunate things that I think we've run into in the past. But I just wanted y'all to be aware of that because some people are going to ask y'all, why is it taking longer to get their dumpsters done? And this is why. We're going to be working with Republic to work on this as as fast as we can, but, that's just where we're at with our permit.
Or if there's a convenient, clever way, I guess just communicate that to the public.
We're gonna do our best. We're gonna,
Do that as well.
we'll get this out in a release into our Facebook and every other way that we can. But it's, people just take full advantage of dumpsters. And it's frustrating because I know I've seen dumpsters emptied and you go back within an hour and they're completely overflowing. So there's some personal responsibility that people need to have as well. There's some things that people need to be taken to the landfill and they just won't. So, but we'll continue to work on that.
The big roll-offs, do they take those to the others or do those go to our landfill?
It depends on the availability of our landfill.
I was just curious, and I don't know if that's an option, if we set those back up at our regular, where we always have the roll-offs, would that relieve some of that?
I don't think I would recommend that right now because just like our debris piles, those will get out of control very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I think those are only permitted quarterly too.
Yeah.
So do we have additional costs for this additional driving to towns?
Not at this time, but I do know, as we go into budget, Republic will be asking for a rate increase which is allowed in the contract for different things. So we will be reviewing that as we go through budget as well.
Is there anything that the city can do to raise the amount of tonnage or whatever, with the current landfill?
I asked Joe that question and I don't think that we can, but we're gonna look at that again to see if there's anything we can do. I don't think we
Changing
can.
the permit or something?
Bill makes a good point. Is there a way to amend the permit per se? Yeah.
It'll
State law comes into play with how much, with volume. So,
It's, those TCQ landfill permits are really, really tricky. And so, but we can look at it because I think at one time there was even a discussion, if y'all remember your tour, that our shooting range is out there on the edge of our landfill was trying to go in and amend our permit because the permit has that shooting range in it and trying to take that out. And we were strongly recommended not to try to ask for that amendment. But we'll look and see if there's anything we can do.
Okay. Anything else, Jane?
I just, executive session, man, I'll try to go fast. If y'all want to take a
Absolutely.
short recess, because I know it's been a long night.
I'm good.
Anybody need a break?
good.
Okay. With that, we'll convene into executive session at 8:51. Right, one-ish.
Yeah, it was on my phone. My phone
You sure
changed its
can.
info.
Do we need to state that executive session reason in this section? Yeah, you'll need to go ahead and read that script.
We'll convene into executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code 551. To deliberate the appointment, evaluation duties, the public officer and employee, city manager, completed its executive session on the first day of July, 2024 at 9:12 PM o'clock. With that, do we have
There was no
with that,
action.
no action afterwards? With that, we're adjourned. Yeah.